Hey everyone, what's going on? Welcome to the Reality of Real Estate podcast. I am one of your hosts, Christopher Lynch, and welcome my co-host.
Hey everybody, my name is Brianna Lehman.
We give you a real take on making homeownership attainable.
We will be breaking down real-life scenarios, trends in the current market, and giving you our personal tools to make homeownership not just your dream, but your reality.
Get ready to be inspired, motivated, and ready to take action towards building your own empire.
Because when you invest in real estate, you aren't just purchasing a home, you're investing in your future. We're back.
Yes, we are. Welcome.
And this episode, we're going to talk actually about selling. We are very buyer-based. I typically only work with buyers. You obviously work mainly with buyers in the lending side. But I can help sellers. We can list your house. You can help sellers with different aspects of it. So I thought it'd be a good idea to talk about what that looks like and how we can help you. And
even not necessarily on just my side as like a seller, but just like if you are a current homeowner.
Right. Absolutely.
And whether your house is working for you right now, but when you bought your house, you knew that it necessarily wasn't going to be your forever home.
Mm-hmm.
And just so like what all of that looks like.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Okay. So one thing that I get asked all the time is like, what is my house worth? Like, what do you think I could sell my house for? And then they'll say, do we need an appraisal? Like, what do I have to do? You don't need an appraisal. I can absolutely run a market analysis for you based on what is selling in your area.
Yes.
Your Zestimate is not real. Zestimates are not real. I get that all the time. They're like, oh, this says, yeah, everyone, your Zestimate is not real. I get this all the time. Hey, Zillow says that my house is worth $500,000. Great. It's probably not. It could be worth more. It could be worth less. So what it does is it takes a whole area per se and just pulls all the sales. So it doesn't take into account the size of your home, any updates you've done or haven't done. It is just an overview of the market, the zip code that you live in.
Yes.
So it's not accurate. If you have questions about that, that's one thing that I do for sellers all of the time is say, let me run an actual market analysis for you where I'm going to look at the size of your home, how many rooms you have, your bedrooms, basement, garage, yard size, age of the house, everything, and give you a very accurate estimate on what your house is worth, not Zestimate.
That was a little petty.
Are we going to get sued for that? I doubt it. Zillow's not going to come for me. I mean,
I despise Zillow, so come for us.
I do too. We don't even use it. I mean, it's hard because their app is so user-friendly.
It is, and
they have the best user-friendly app. The MLS has stepped up. There's an app now that we can use and then like whatever, but I get why people use it. It's user-friendly. It's not real time. I still get people sending me properties all of the time from Zillow, and I'm like, that's been pending for 3 days. So
yeah, like I had a client, they got updated yesterday and said that they lost out on a bid, but she texted me at 7:03 this morning and said, it still says that it's for sale.
Yes.
And I'm just like, you got to give it a second. At some point today, you will see that it says pending or like it won't come up as available.
Had that exact conversation on Monday morning. There's like, well, it still says that it's available on Zillow. And I'm like, yeah, Zillow's not real time. Everybody. Trust me. And Chris. Yeah. But so I get asked that all the time. Like Zillow says it's worth this, or even like houses that people are going to buy. I know we're going back to that now, but let me run a market analysis for you.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, and we talked about this yesterday in team meeting, is that Stark County property taxes are going up.
And they need to stop because if they raise my property taxes on my house one more time, we're going to fight.
But you can fight it.
Yes, you can.
You can have us run a market analysis for you. I can give you that information, and then you can submit it to the county, the auditor site. There is a form you have to fill out.
Yes.
There's a process that you do that you can fight your property taxes going up. It's kind of funny because on one hand, they're saying like your property value's this, and you're fighting the opposite. But if you're not planning on moving in the next 5 years, fight the property taxes.
And, you know, my thing for that is when it pertains to, I'll just use my house for an example.
Mm-hmm.
From the time that we bought it until when it did increase, it was a big increase. And I was just like,
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Mhm.
But I also was just like, okay, like, what are they actually saying that the value is? Because I am nosy and petty and like a little bit of a PI. I asked my neighbors if they got the same things.
Mhm.
And they were just like, yes, we did. And my one neighbor was like, I don't agree with mine. So, like, what do I need to do?
Yep.
Sort of a thing. But I got a recent letter that said that they weren't going to change them again. Like, they felt like the last,
Because yours was adjusted
yeah.
enough. Yeah.
And so, like, the last adjustment was sufficient and we're good. But it's also just a quick reminder of paying attention to what your property taxes are actually contributing to
Right.
in the community, to where sometimes it does, it makes sense and you just kind of have to bite the bullet and
Mhm.
move on. But other times it's like, there's no way that this is what, like, you know, you're saying that my house is worth, especially if like you are someone who recently purchased your home.
Mhm.
Outside of a market analysis, they will use, at least last year, they said that they would use an appraisal that was completed within the last 2 years, because from their perspective, they don't go into your home.
Right.
Look, yeah,
Drive-bys.
doing a drive by and then basing it upon the homes in your zip code.
Mhm.
So when you give them that appraisal, I don't know if they're looking at the whole thing, if they're looking
Right.
at like the interior photos, but they should not be taking that into an account on the value.
Right.
But you can use that to support it. But again, just
Good
kind
to
of
know.
paying attention to how that value is estimated
Right.
and if
Yeah,
you agree or disagree.
for sure. So definitely pay attention to that. Utilize us if you need to.
Yes.
As far as listing your home, if you're considering it or thinking about it or want me to come out to see what you need to do or what I would suggest doing, that happens a lot too, is I'll have clients call me and say, "Hey, we're thinking about selling. Could you come over and tell us exactly like what would add value to the home, what's worth doing, what's not worth
I
doing?"
love that people do that
Yes, they do
because,
that all the time, and
yeah.
I wish that more people would do it
Yeah.
because we also, on the other side, get the calls where it's like, "Hey, we did X, Y, and Z, so now our house should be increased by 20,000." And I'm like, "Actually, you did nothing of value, and that sucks. I'm sorry that you did that," you know? So,
Yes.
and I won't say nothing of value. If you're updating your house in any capacity, it's gonna give you some
It,
least appeal, you
yeah.
know?
But like, for an example, if you replaced, we'll just say mechanicals, or if you got a
Mhm.
new roof,
Mhm.
like, that's just required maintenance of being a
Yes,
homeowner.
yes.
So if your roof costs you X amount of dollars, like, sure, that might help a little bit. But
Yeah,
if
there's
you,
value in
yeah,
that
like if
for a
you put
buyer.
on a $20,000 roof, but it's only changing your home value by $8,500,
Right,
because other people in your neighborhood have also put on new roofs within the last 3 years.
right.
Like, you have to take that into consideration. And I get it that it's just like, oh, well, I should have left this to the next person. But
Mhm.
you didn't know if you were going to be moving or not. And you
Right.
also don't know if, when you put your house on the market, if that buyer is comfortable, buying a new roof. So there's things like that. But like, if your furnace isn't working, that's not anyone else's
Right,
responsibility other
yeah,
than
that's
yours.
not
Like,
an upgrade on the
yeah,
appraiser's list, that
like,
is a requirement, you have
yes.
to have that, so, yes, those conversations happen often. I think a lot of times people don't realize that I can help you list your house. Now, I work on a team, we've talked about this, so
Yep.
just to, like, refresh everybody's memory, I work on a team, I work for Jose Medina. There are listing agents and there are buying agents. I mainly work with buyers, however, I can do both if it's in my sphere or people that come to me directly. A lot of times, like, especially with investors, I'll say, like, have Jose. He's definitely the professional there, but I will help you. I can help you. I want to help you. So,
I like it. On my side, it's really helpful if you are a current homeowner
mhm,
and if you know that you're going to be selling your house, what is going to be like your net proceeds and how
mhm.
do you want to make best use of that money
Yep.
in going towards the next home?
Mhm,
It's a very helpful and healthy conversation, because if they've met with you, they have their market analysis, and you're just
mhm,
like, hey, your house is not worth 525. It's actually potentially worth somewhere between 475 to 490.
mhm.
Then that gives us a ballpark to where we can look at the numbers and see what it actually is going to allow them to do.
Right.
Same way, like I had a guy who bought his house for, I think it was like 60 some thousand dollars in 2017. Well, now his house is worth like a little over 130 just because of what he's done to it.
Mhm.
So still like, great numbers that we're working with here, but
Right.
like that house kind of served its purpose in his life.
Mhm.
And now he is engaged and just life is changing. So like now what are we going to do?
Right.
And what do you want to do with this money?
Mhm.
So just that stuff to where if you don't know what you're potentially going to net,
Right.
then we want to figure that out before we figure out whatever you're going to do on the next deal.
Yep. And
Um,
we will do a net sheet for you when we would come look at your house and different scenarios too. If you sold for
Thank you.
this, if you sold for that, here you are. And then that helps. Another reason why making sure that you're partnered with the right people, because then I'm going to bring that to you and say, here's the net sheet. Here's what they're estimated to net based on where they sell
Yes.
and county
And
fees and all of those things that sellers don't realize. They have closing costs as well. They have fees on their side that they will be responsible to pay for
yes.
and what they could be potentially asked for from a buyer.
And it is helpful because when you come to me, we can look at that net sheet and do we go best case scenario or are we only going to do worst case scenario?
Mhm.
I'll be honest, I'm a realist and I say that you go worst
Worst
case
case every
scenario,
time. Mhm.
especially if you are someone who is adamant saying that like this house has kind of served its purpose in our life. We're moving regardless.
Mhm.
So if that is the case, then worst case it would be best. That
Right.
would allow for us to structure out your next deal. And
Mhm.
then if it ends up at best case scenario, according to your net sheet, that's a win.
Mhm.
And count your blessings. But now, when that kind of aligns up, do you want to use the best case scenario figures or whatever house that you're choosing to buy? Do you need to buy, new furniture? Do you need to buy
Right.
appliances? You need to, whatever that looks like. We looked at it as worst case. So now you have this additional money that
Mhm.
we weren't really
Accounting
for.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that. But I also would say for current homeowners, if you're just like, hey, because of the pandemic, because of whatever, we have all this debt that we've accumulated that we didn't really think that we would have accumulated.
Mhm.
And if you currently own your home and if you are in a good equity position, let's talk about what a refinance looks like for you to where you can do a cash out refi or you can take advantage of the home equity line of credit
Mhm.
to hit the reset button in a more controlled and manageable way of doing
Right.
things. So then that way, when all the dust is settled and you can kind of get a real good grasp on your life again, just because you feel like things are all over the place and a little bit chaotic, now you can actually manage this and you don't feel like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, sort of a
Yeah.
thing. But also for like the people who are like, we like our house, but we don't love our house anymore. Do you want to take advantage of some form of like a renovation loan? Do you want
Mhm.
to look into doing a cash out refi because you're handy and you feel like you are well equipped to be able to do a lot of, you know, renovation projects on your own, or like you have family and friends who can help you do it.
Mhm.
Um, so then that way, when you do want to sell your house, you've customized it based upon what you are feeling.
Right.
Um, so that is something that a lot of people forget about as
Right.
well that you can do.
Mhm. And then refinances, you handle those,
Yep.
right?
So just your traditional rate and term refinance, you can do a cash out refi. If you have a VA loan or an FHA loan, you can do what's called a streamline, which is helpful. It's not the same. It on the lending side, it kind of looks like the same, but it's not.
Mhm.
And it just essentially allows you to kind of jump from this situation to this situation, which puts you in a better situation.
So when can homeowners refinance?
Now, that is depending on whoever your home is financed with and how
Okay.
long you've had it financed. Most places, so
Mhm.
in general, people, as long as you are outside of your first 6 months worth of payments. So essentially, you don't make your first mortgage payment until So if you closed in February, your first mortgage payment is not going to be due until April.
Mm-hmm.
So you would need to make 6 months starting of worth of payments, starting with your first payment
April.
due in April. So I always say you're looking at essentially somewhere between like 7 to 8 months after
Right.
closing. And that's when you can look into a refinance. Some people say that the interest rate would need to at least be a full percent less, but maybe if you're in an FHA loan and you want to go conventional, even if it were at like a half a percent
Mm-hmm.
and you've done some things and we feel pretty confident that you could get rid of the PMI by going from FHA to conventional, let's talk about it. Let's
Right.
explore. So even at that half a percent, but if you get that rid of that PMI or even reduce what you're paying in that, does that make a big enough difference in your monthly payment?
Mm-hmm. Does it take? Is it a 30-day process typically or less? I guess like the same time as a contract.
It depending on the lender.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
My team, our goal is to always try to do, whether it's cash out, streamline, or just a rate and term.
Mm-hmm.
Our goal is to try to be able to do them, like have it from start to finish done somewhere between 19 and 22 days.
Okay.
That is our goal. Does it always happen that way? No, not all the time, to where like it
Right.
does end up being a full 30-day.
Mm-hmm.
But our goal is that 19 to 22.
So how many times can a homeowner refinance within the term of their loan?
As many times as they want to,
Okay.
but I can say that it doesn't necessarily make sense
Right.
for you to do so because
Mm-hmm.
there are closing costs that are going to be a factor.
Okay.
You can have those costs rolled into your new loan, but with what those costs are and you're adding in, does it actually make sense?
Right. To do it that way.
But then, especially for you get into like with VA loans specifically, if it does not make sense for you to go from, so if you're currently at 6.25 VA, but current market rates are at 6.75, they're going to say, what are you doing?
Right. Right.
So unless you're like really stretching out that term to where that payment is lowering, those sorts of things, that's going to be the immediate question from an
Mm-hmm.
underwriter. And just like from the compliance side of things, like, are you sure that you're making the right move here? And you, as the loan officer, did you educate your client to let them know, like, hey, this actually may or may not be the best situation for you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have to answer to someone based upon your request, especially if it looks like you are like always someone coming back to want to do a refinance when it doesn't necessarily make sense on paper,
Right.
but they also don't know whatever conversation we've had, because you could be in a situation to where you stretch back out that term and yeah, it is a higher interest rate. And if that payment is decreasing by $100 to $200, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
they're not in and privy to the conversation to know that on like on your day to day that it actually really does make a difference
Right.
because of whatever is actually currently on your plate. So
Mm-hmm.
we just kind of have to prove that to them and just say, hey, like due to X, Y, and Z, yes, this does make sense. Or no, I actually agree. And maybe it's not something that I like really considered. I heard their story and listened to their request. Like, all right, I agreed with them, but now
Mm-hmm.
playing it back and looking at other scenarios and stuff like that, and just like, so maybe we do wait a little bit longer.
Right.
And that's how you look at it. Home equity lines of credit are great. They help you do a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
When I used to work at the credit union, people use them for renovation projects. Some people use them for like their vacations, their kid's first car, or like, especially had one client and he had 5 daughters and they were all a year apart.
Oh my God.
How? I don't even know, but they all got married essentially within a year from each other. And so like
Oh no.
they were getting married. He'd pay one kid's wedding off and then have to, here comes the next one. And except for his youngest two, they got married in the same year, like 3 months apart. And so like they didn't get the same amount of money that
Yeah,
the other
that's
kids got.
crazy. Yeah.
But he also said that they had a lot of extra things that his other children did not get because
Yeah.
they
They
were
were the
the two. Yeah.
babies.
So yeah,
So when it comes to a home equity line, what's the limitation on that?
home
Excuse
equity
me.
lines of credit are depends on who you do it through, but like through CCM, they actually allow for you to go up to 85% loan to value. This is tricky
Mm-hmm.
because 85% loan to value minus whatever you currently owe on your first mortgage. So that is just very key and something to
Right.
take into consideration. And sometimes like there is a minimum amount, like through CCM, it's $25,000. So like the lowest HELOC you can have is for 25 grand. But if your house is worth 100, you owe $80,000 on it, you don't have an option right now.
Right.
Um,
And
but
I've had clients use their HELOC to buy investment properties.
yes, I always say that that is like an amazing thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
You have way more opportunity because then at that point you are a cash buyer.
Mm-hmm. You have 2 properties for your one mortgage.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so even if like the HELOC is a second mortgage, but you have that opportunity available to you,
Mm-hmm.
use it.
Right.
If you are debt free or like in a position to where like, you know, maybe you lease your cars and you don't have any credit card debt and you have your mortgage, but you have all this equity in your house,
Mm-hmm.
take out a home equity line of credit. You will have the ability to draw on it for anywhere between, you know, usually for most places, anywhere between like 2 to 5 years. And take a draw from it. Use the equity to allow you to invest in other things. Sometimes it's like you have a buddy or a sibling who's like, hey, I want to be able to tap into real estate investing, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't have all the money to be able to do it.
There
Partner
you go.
together.
Yeah.
You need to meet with, you know, proper people to help you figure out exactly how things are going to be split, but partner together and take advantage of it. We just talked
Mm-hmm.
about in our previous episode that, you know, Canton and Maslin are in the top 3 emerging, you know, housing markets,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you are local. Take advantage of your equity in your home if you know you're not going to sell your house
Mm-hmm.
and be in a position. Even if you do sell your house, then whatever the proceeds are from your house, you're paying off those loans
Right.
and putting yourself in a different position. Or like if you want to buy a house at auction, 9 times out of 10, those are cash only
Right.
deals. So if you don't have, you know, X amount of dollars just laying around for play money, use your equity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's good. Or if you do buy an investment property that needs work and you're okay with having, you know, your loan on it or whatever, take out a HELOC to where you can do whatever renovations need to be done. If you are low on cash or you don't want to basically, you know, stretch yourself too thin
Mm-hmm.
on the cash you have available.
Right.
Options are there, but you have to talk to people to say like, how do I really structure this, strategize here, and put myself in position to make it all work?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was
All right.
good.
Yeah, it was good.
That was a lot.
It was a lot.
Hopefully you had a pen and paper. If not, you can go back and re-listen.
The lending side is very like I'm not great with math and numbers, but like even just listening to you, I learned stuff. So that was good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys back. If you have any questions, again, please always reach out to us.
Yes.
Let us know how we can help you because we're always available and ready to go. So
Yes. I appreciate you saying that because we didn't even say that in our last episode. What's wrong with us?
I don't know. But, all right. We will see you guys soon.
Bye, guys.
Toodles.
Toodles. All right, friends, as we close things out today, remember homeownership is more than just a roof over your head. It's a symbol of your strength, resilience, and determination.
Take action, embrace growth, and never be discouraged about where you are in your journey.
And remember to follow us on Instagram at Reality of Real Estate Podcast.
Our emails are linked in the description below. You can reach us at
Christopher.lynch@ccm.com.
and my email is blaymanrealtor@gmail.com.
All right.
Toodles.
Toodles.